Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all so much for taking time to join us today. I'm Dante Houston, the Emerging Leaders Co-Chair, and I'm also a Senior Manager for Client Delivery at AMN Healthcare. Before we begin, I wanted to cover off on a few housekeeping items. First, we are recording this event, so please mute your lines. And second, we are asking that any audience questions be entered into the chat box. We'll do our best to get to your questions as quickly as possible. Today's Fall Leadership Panel is hosted by Emerging Leaders and Technology United, two of United Way's donor networks. For those of you who aren't already familiar with those donor networks, I'll provide a brief overview. The Emerging Leaders members are individuals in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, changing the lives of local youth by giving, advocating, and volunteering around United Way's education initiatives, including Bridges to School, a new kindergarten readiness program. Technology United is a membership network of technologists who focus on raising awareness about tech careers with students, and their signature initiative, Tequity, promotes digital equity and inclusion. If you're interested in learning more about either of those donor networks, please put your name and which donor network you want information on in the chat box, and we'll connect with you following the event. So you know what you can expect during our time together this afternoon. In just a few minutes, you'll hear from our keynote speaker, Robert Cordova, from the world champion Milwaukee Bucks. There will be a Q&A following, so you'll certainly have an opportunity there. And then next, we'll hear from three established local leaders who will discuss how to lead, engage, and find success in a new reality of the hybrid work environment, followed by our final Q&A of the evening. Now, I'd like to introduce one of my good friends and forever mentors in this great city, Denise Thomas, who will be our wonderful moderator today. Denise is the founder and owner of The Effective Communication Coach, LLC, a consulting firm focusing on transforming emerging and existing professionals into extraordinary leaders by mastering the art of effective communication. With 19 years of experience within Fortune 500 companies, Denise has honed the ability to deliver and receive messages across language, culture, and communication style barriers. She currently sits on the Women United Council and has been involved with both Emerging Leaders and Diversity Leadership Society's donor networks here at United Way. Thank you for joining us, Denise.
Thank you, Dante. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with each of you today. I hope you are having a great week. I hope you are staying safe, well, and happy. Now, I know each of you are ready to hear from today's incredible keynote speaker. I am so pleased to introduce Robert Cordova. He is the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer for the NBA 2021 and probably 22 world champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. Robert is responsible for all technology infrastructure, digital innovation, and information systems that enable the Milwaukee Bucks and its ancillary businesses. Robert was named CIO of the Year in 2019 by the Milwaukee Business Journal for his dedication and his valuable work within the Bucks and our community. He graduated from Yale College with a degree in electrical engineering and was a member of the lightweight rowing team. Robert is also a Technology United CIO advisory board member and is participating in the upcoming 2022 Technology United CIO Forum. So I know we're all going to be looking forward to hearing from Robert again during that event. So without further ado, Robert, how are you?
I'm doing great. So great to be here. Good afternoon, everybody. As you can imagine, it's been a pretty amazing, surreal year for the Bucks and for me and for probably all of us on this call. at least the ones that aren't Chicago Bears fans. And yeah, just glad to be here, glad to be with my peer group here and to share whatever we want to talk about. So thanks very much, Denise.
Well, Robert, thank you so much for making the time to be here. It is truly our pleasure to have your expertise and insight. So what we want to do first, Robert, is I'm sure along with everyone and myself, we want to know about your journey. So if you could tell us a little bit about your career and ultimately, how did you arrive at the Bucs?
Sure. Well, I won't spend too much time on it because it would take quite a bit. So, but originally from Los Angeles, went out east to school, and that kind of changed my life and like the course of my life. But electrical engineer, as you just said. So I started out as a deep in the weeds, like laying out transistors on microchips and for Department of Defense stuff. And since then, I've done a number of things. But when I look at my current job at the Bucs, everything that I've done along the way, even though at some points in my career, I'm like, God, am I this jack of all trades, master of none? And at this point in time, I look back and like every job I've ever had has actually allowed me to succeed and thrive at the Bucs. And so going from that deep in the weeds electrical engineer, I also worked for my dad's real estate business in Los Angeles for about 5 years after that first job. And after 5 years, I think my dad and I had enough of one another. So I jumped back into technology. But even that job, because if you think about it, with the 30 acres of land that the city gave the Bucs, 7 years ago to develop, the Bucs, yeah, we're a sports team, obviously, but we're also a real estate development firm. So just knowing the vernacular and what that entails just helps me be part of that management team at the Bucs. But I did get into IT, so kind of that CIO hat for about 8 years at Sara Lee. That was really my only IT job. And then I after that, I went into actually technology sales at AT&T. So that was one of my personal stretch goals, was like to get out of like, out of like the technology isolated kind of view of the world and try to become a little more extroverted. And so I knew that if you go into sales, you're going to have to be doing a lot of talking, a lot of selling. So it was a great job where I was essentially the regional CTO of AT&T's Midwest sales region. So I would meet with a lot of CIOs and evangelize AT&T's product set and where we were going, the roadmap, and all those really fun things. And one day I got this email, believe it or not, through my LinkedIn account. And it was somebody asking if I wanted to apply for this job with the Bucs. And truth be told, this is like 4 years ago, because I didn't even remember that the Bucs were a basketball team. That's how bad it was. And obviously I applied for the job, and one thing led to another, and I got the job. And the timing was great because I have three kids. My last child was about to graduate high school that spring, so I wouldn't ruin her life moving to a whole new town. And my wife and I moved up here in 2018, and it's just been fantastic. So that's how I got to the Bucs, by being this jack of all trades, and it all just helped me succeed at the Bucs.
That is so fascinating, Robert. Thank you for sharing that. And I know when I ask you this, because you're just such a humble leader and you're always about serving others. So I know this question may seem a bit uncomfortable to answer, but please, we are dying to understand from your lens, in addition to all of the accolades and accomplishments that you have obtained, from your lens, what have been your top 3 accomplishments since being with the Milwaukee Bucs?
Sure. No. So when I got to the Bucs, essentially I had when I got there, my staff was 3 deep, right? And they were really predominantly 2 desktop support folks and 1 basketball game technology person, right? And that's because we were a tenant of the Bradley Center. We did not own that arena. So we just had to go in there, set up the court with all the NBA technology for that game, have the game, tear it all down, and then just wait for the next game. And then we had a couple of desktop support folks. So within 6 months, we needed to commission and operate the $60 million of technology at Fiserv Forum, which we own. So I, obviously, when I found out that I had 3 people on my team, started to do the team building. So one of the things I feel really great about is I built a team that can really operate all that technology, along with the front office, the business office as well. So there's that CIO hat. But there's really, if you think of Fiserv Forum, and this comes from my Sara Lee days, as a factory of events, right? Whether those are basketball games or concerts, there's a certain type of person that you need to have on that, what I call operation technology. It's not really information technology, it's operation technology. And it's because the show must go on. If there are problems, you need to solve them. You need to use duct tape, whatever you need to get to keep the show going on. And that takes a certain type of person, I'm probably more of an IT guy, not an OT guy. I like to be a little more methodical, plan for things. But when you're in the thick of an event, you just need to make sure that all the technology works, and there's always problems, right? So really hiring that team of really on the spot problem solvers, that was probably my biggest accomplishment to date as one of the things there. So I have a great team of about 15 people that work for me. So that was one great thing. After I had been at the Bucks for about a year, my boss, Peter, he really wanted to start to be a lot more quantitative on the business side. So I kind of started our data journey at the Bucks. And so, getting all of our data into one place so we can get that, ideally, that 360-degree view of the prospect of the customer. That's the nirvana. So I know that you go to these kinds of, the Chicago Bulls, Milwaukee Bucks games. I know that you like to buy this type of merchandise. I know that so all these things, the more information we can have about you, the guest, the more we can cater the product, right? So bringing all that data into the cloud, into one data lake, and then being able to use those visualization tools to get those out to everybody. I helped start that whole journey at the Bucks, and it's going along very, very well. So that I would say would be number 2. And then number 3 is really being more on the business strategy side of the Bucks, because technology, as we can all agree, technology touches every part of the business, and it's only growing, right? So it's a huge business enabler. And so I had been at the Bucks for about a year and a half, and I was promoted to Chief Technology and Strategy Officer. So the strategy part of that title, I'm part of the senior management team at the Bucks. And we're really always thinking about the business and how to improve the business and expand the business, especially with the new salaries that we're paying for the team, which are quite a bit now. So we're always thinking, how can we really expand the business, monetize all this opportunity, and technology always plays a role in that. So just having that seat at the table, I really enjoy that. So those are my 3 things.
I love it. Thank you so much, Robert. Now, here's where we're going to get into the good insight from you. Now, with technology, especially for all of us over the past 2 years, when we hear the word or see the word technology, there's a lot of us that get angst because it has been challenging. So from your insight as one of the most highly visible business critical leaders, not just within the Milwaukee Bucks, but in our community, what have been some of your biggest challenges that you've experienced in your role?
So, one challenge, and you probably saw all of, the tens of thousands of people gathered outside of Fiserv Forum, right? So, and we had kind of planned for that by building out that plaza. When we built Fiserv Forum, we did invest in the plaza, our beer garden, the 4 bars and restaurants right there on the plaza. But when you actually see it come to life, and there being like 60,000 people out there for the championship game, a couple of things I would say were challenging there. One is connectivity, right? So we had thought about doing like a beefed up outdoor antenna system out there for the cellular connectivity, or even just for the Wi-Fi. But we didn't expect 60,000 people. So we really, so I would say that's the big challenge, is how do we get that kind of connectivity out there? How do we work with the carriers to make sure that the next time we have 60,000 people, they're all online doing their Instagrams and all that. So that was one big thing. And then with 5G, how is that going to play out on that too? So that's kind of one of our gaps. And then two, which goes a little bit hand in hand in this, is like, who are those people, right? And and not just not who are they like personally, but like, I think they're Gen Y and Gen Z, and I think they're from Milwaukee, and I think this and that, but like, you don't know, right? So how do we learn more about them? By engaging with them. So because the 60,000 out there, they may be customers, they may not be. They may want to be sold more experiences. Like, we just need to find that out. So connectivity really plays a huge part in allowing us to engage with them. So to have a contest, if they give us their email, maybe they get some free seats or get drawn for some free seats. So that's another thing, is just like understanding who these people, who all of these customers or visitors are that are within the Deer District itself, which is now known throughout the lands, right? Coast to coast, people know where Milwaukee is, they know what the Deer District is. So those were a couple of the challenges as we got overwhelmed with all of the folks out there.
Well, Robert, on behalf of the entire city of Milwaukee, we thank you. We thank you for everything that you led and that you motivated and influenced, because in spite of the challenges, we're the world champions! Bucks and 6! So thank you for that leadership. Thank you so much. It's a great demonstration of really how, when you apply courage and teamwork and accountability and just a vision, this is what happens. You still bring home the trophy. So Robert, thank you for that. And we appreciate everything that you've led this year. So with that, also, speaking of championship, how did the Bucks championship change things? I know you've talked about, obviously, leading up to the championship. So now that we're the world champions, and in your role as Chief Technology and Strategy Officer of the Milwaukee Bucks, how is this world championship title changing things, running things?
I mean, there's the excitement about it, obviously. Like everybody has kind of has a hop in their step as they come to work, and not that it was ever a bad place to work, but like, being the champs, it's a pretty amazing thing. And like, really, like you just said, we all have this vision of what we wanted to do from the team side, from the business side, from the arena side. And it really all came together in such a beautiful, exciting way. So, but with that, now it's like, hey, we've only developed 15 of the 30 acres, right? And boy, do we wish that we had developed all 30 acres, right? So do we wish that we had the 2 hotels there and the mixed use residential, which is just really land right now, right? So it really has lit up more of a fire of like, okay, we got to get that stuff done so we can engage with our customers, so we can visit Milwaukee, so we can really welcome people here and show them a great time in our great town here. So it really has sped up kind of how we want to develop the other 15 acres of land. It also has really opened our eyes into expanding the product set, right? So we have this very, most sports teams, right? Very focused view on selling seats to the game, right? It's our biggest money maker. And so a lot of that attention is on selling seats. And if you think about it, like I'm not sure if you've been to Disneyland, if you ever go there, at the end of, after the end of this great day of being there, going on rides, having lunch there, seeing Mickey Mouse, you get this fireworks show at the end of the night, and it's this amazing fireworks show. And then when that ends, it's time to go home. The lights go off. So I equate the Bucks game to that fireworks show. It's an amazing fireworks show. But from a Deer District perspective, what about all the other potential opportunities for experience and engagement throughout the day, throughout the weekend that our customers, our guests want to have? So now we got to think, we need to build out the Deer District. We need to expand our product set. We need to focus on the overall experience, the overall potential of the Milwaukee Bucks and the Deer District as really that experience for a day, for a few days, right? So that's exciting, but boy, it keeps you up at night.
I would much rather go to the Deer District for a world championship than Disneyland, just so you know, Robert, just for the record. So we're ready for next year. So Robert, we literally could chat all day because your mind is brilliant. Your leadership is so impactful. I want to be inclusive as a moderator. And so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to turn it over to Audrey because we have a number of questions for you from the audience. So Audrey, you've got the mic.
Yeah, so Robert, our first question comes from Amy Linder from United Way, and she asked, did you take the championship trophy anywhere fun?
So I did not take it any place, but there was a group of my Yale alums that we were all at the last game, the last home game, and we all went into one of the suites where we got the trophy. And so just with my college peers, we were there taking the pictures and doing our silly stuff with the trophy. So, but what I will say is the coolest shot that I saw is when I saw the trophy, the Larry O'Brien on the Acropolis in Greece, like that. I'm not sure if you've seen that picture, but seeing, Giannis and his family with the trophy literally on the Acropolis, the birthplace of modern philosophy and thought, right? That was just pretty amazing. So
that's fantastic. Fantastic. The second question we have is from Lizzie in the chat, and she was asking if you have any tips or recommendations for a young tech professional who might want to sit in your seat one day.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I wish I had known about is there's a couple of sites out there that are geared specifically to sports jobs, and there's a lot of sports technology on those job lists. And one of them is called, I think, teamworkonline.com. And like, if you go there, you can see all these team sports oriented jobs and like what the expectation is. So if you're early on in your career, I always recommend going there and reading the job descriptions, and if you're capable, applying for them. But at least you'll know what types of roles in technology are needed out there in sports. And then the second thing I always say is, if you can get a hook into a mentor in sports, my kids have heard me say this, a number of times. Executives and seasoned folks, seasoned professionals, they want to help the younger ranks, right? So I spend a percentage of my time mentoring, and that's another great way to get into sports. And then there are a number of internships, and that's a great way to kind of build into kind of the various lines. And the last thing I'll say is there's so much opportunity in technology and sports, because one of the things when it came to the Bucks is you start to ask the question, hey, why do we do it that way? And usually the answer is because it's always been done that way. And so we're constantly trying to disrupt sports from a technology standpoint, and there's a lot of opportunity. So
that's great. And I want to shout out to Chris, who put in the chat the website. She is on it. So she put a website to teamworkonline.com. So click that link in the chat. The last question that we have is from Erica Smith, and she asks, what are some of the Bucks strategies to maintain consumer fan loyalty, leveraging tech specifically?
So I think, so specifically for technology, there's a lot of unknowns on some of these newer technologies. So whether it's 5G, augmented reality, virtual reality, there's the whole, once it's legalized, sports, gambling. So there's a lot of those things that we're not sure how they're going to play out exactly, but those are all things that we are thinking about right now as a way to engage. So we'll kind of have to see where all those things go. But from like an experience standpoint, we're always after reducing the amount of friction, right? So any kind of technology that can reduce the friction for our guests getting to experience what they want to experience. So even the simple thing of like getting from your car into your seat for a ball game, right? Like what are all of the friction points? How do we reduce that? So I'm sure if you could just walk from your car, walk right through the front doors, walk right to your seat and start seeing the game, that would be ideal. So there are a lot of things that are improving on that front as well. Like even like the magnetometers where we x-ray your bag and we check, what you may have in your bag. Those are getting to the point where we're starting to trial ones that you can just walk right through. You don't even have to stop. And you only get flagged if we see something in your bag. So those types of technologies are hugely important to us. And then, as I was saying before, how can we use technology to engage our fans and to enrich their experience? So there's a number of things that we're doing on that front, which also includes like, scavenger hunts, using NFTs as a way to engage. So there's just a lot of opportunity for really engaging with the technology.
That's great, Robert. Thank you so much for answering some Q&A for us, and I'll throw it back.
Sure. Glad to do it.
There we go. See, technology, Robert. I'm still not catching up with the whole mute, unmute thing. So Robert, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, on behalf of the entire United Way family in the room today, thank you. And to the entire Milwaukee Bucks for bringing that world championship title to us. Milwaukee Bucks, 50 years in the making and an NBA title win. Robert, thank you so much. I hope to see you. I'll be at the game this Friday, loud, obnoxious, as I always am, with cheering for another win against the Knicks. So thank you again. Also keep in mind, this is why we love the Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks have donated a Bucks fan package as part of United Way's Give and Win sweepstakes. So if you give right now a new or increased gift of just $25 to United Way's community fund by 5 p.m. next Friday, November the 12th, you will automatically be entered to win two, not one, but 2 tickets to the Milwaukee Bucks home game and a signed Giannis jersey. Did you hear what I said? All you got to do is give to the United Way or increase your gift by $25 and you get 2 tickets and a signed Giannis jersey. You can also enter to win some other incredibly great prizes. So shoot your shot and donate now before the clock runs out, because along with the Bucks, United Way is such a pivotal force in the betterment of our community. So again, Robert, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And I'll add a personal back of house tour to whoever wins that jersey and those seats. So I will walk you around the back of house, all the technology there. We'll arrange that. So give, and I will personally escort you around and show you all the cool things behind the scenes.
Okay, I'm donating right now because I need to win that. I'm eligible, right? Dante, Bria, I'm eligible. Don't count me out. Amy, I'm winning this. I love it. That's awesome. Thank you so much again, Robert. Wishing you all the continued success in the remainder of the season. And thank you again for your contributions, for your leadership.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. All right, now I am honored and privileged to introduce our next 3 panelists here with us today. Whew, if you thought that that was good, we're really about to take it to the next level. They're going to share their insights and tips on how to be a strong leader that fosters an environment that motivates performance, team engagement, and results, and how you can elevate yourself with leadership, all in a hybrid work environment. That's right, whether you're working from home, the office, or both. So first up, we've got a powerhouse panel team. Mary Dugan, who is Vice President of Global Infrastructure at Clarios LLC, and prior to her role at Clarios, which was formerly known as Johnson Controls Power Solutions business, Mary has a 30-year career at Johnson Controls in IT. Since 2019, Mary has been working on exiting TSAs with JCI and standing up a greenfield IT organization and infrastructure services. Mary has been a Technology United member since 2013 and currently sits on the council. She previously was one of our emerging leaders. So awesome, great to have you here, Mary. Next, I am also pleased to introduce Kathy Henrich, CEO of the MKE Tech Hub Coalition, a nonprofit focused on inclusively doubling tech talent in the Milwaukee region to create enduring economic success and life-changing jobs. Kathy has held several executive roles, including leading sales and partnership organizations over $500 million. Kathy has also been a Technology United member since 2012 and also sits on the CIO Advisory Board and Council. She is also a past member of the Emerging Leader Network. So shout out to the Emerging Leaders Network. And finally, our last but most certainly not least panelist is Anthony Minicelli II, founder and CEO of Single Wire LLC, which was founded in 2017. Anthony has 25 plus years of experience in software engineering, telecommunications, and open source. In addition to Single Wire, he also founded FreeSwitch and ClueCon in 2005. Single Wire is an enterprise CPaaS that delivers advanced free switch as a service through an elastic cloud framework and developer-friendly APIs. All these long words. I'm a product of Evansville Public School System, so forgive me. We're gonna make this work. All right, welcome to everyone. How are you doing? And thanks so much for being here today. We're gonna spend about 20 minutes learning and hearing from our panelists, and then we're gonna close with a 10-minute Q&A. And as a reminder, please don't hesitate and send all of your questions in the chat box. Our first question, and Mary, we will start with you. How has the pandemic impacted your current work environment?
Tremendously. I would say prior to the pandemic, we used to work 100% in the office. And then March of 2020, everything changed. At that point in time, we went from being in the office to working remote. So, for us, that was a major shift. But the amazing thing of all was that we really didn't miss a heartbeat. We were able to continue to be as productive, even more so in some opinions, working remote as we were when we were back in, working from the office place itself. We had to adjust with the type of tools we used. Teams took off for us. We're a big Microsoft shop, and we use Teams for every meeting. And the thing we've tried to do is reinforce video so we can see people and see their expressions, etc., because you miss that engagement, that one-on-one from not being together. So Teams is big, streaming video for global town halls, trying to find ways to stay engaged with a global company, has its challenges. But I think overall, we've all really learned to adapt. And what we're finding is people really enjoy flexibility. They like working from home, having flexible hours, and often find themselves more productive.
Thank you so much, Mary. Kathy or Anthony, any additional perspectives in terms of how the pandemic has impacted your current work environment?
I could say that we kind of have a unique story because our company was designed to create telecommunications of the future, meaning also video, building a product that necessarily enabled all kinds of different things. Some of what we just heard about earlier, the Bucks looking to do cool fan experiences and betting, all those are the kinds of things we set out to build. And when the pandemic hit, we had already been a remote team since inception of our company in 2017. In fact, we used our own technology to create a work environment that uses live video, but maybe in a different way than others do, designed around small impromptu instant meetings and the ability to kind of jump in and out of workspaces without ever hanging up. So we had, I'd say, like the same kinds of dilemmas with the off hours of not being able to leave our house. But while we were at work, it was actually more normal than ever. And we kind of steered into the skid on it and created more tools to allow other people to make ways to work remote easier.
Thank you for that insight, Anthony. Now, Kathy, I'm going to switch the question up for you because you are extraordinary in the fact that you've worked remotely for 25 years. And so please, what have been some of the best practices that you can share with us in terms of keeping your career on track in now what is going to be a hybrid work environment?
Yeah, so I went remote in '94, so even longer ago, and we can all be thankful that the pandemic hit this year and not in '94, because we literally had to physically wire all of our homes in order to put in extra phone lines and to get internet connections in there. So yes, long history of being remote, and all of the benefits, I will tell you, are there. I probably would not be a woman in tech, very honestly, if it had not been for the ability to balance the way I was able to, because I was either on a plane or I was here in the house and I could be 5 minutes from school. And so there was a lot of advantages from a personal perspective, and it actually held me at IBM for many, many years because I was able to grow my career while also taking care of my family. But I think I put down a couple of lessons that I took away from that time frame. And I would say one is you always, you want to understand how are you going to be measured at the end of the day. Having expectations that are very clear is very helpful, especially when you're remote. And then, because that allows you then to report on that on a very regular basis. You almost think of yourself as a mini company, that you're reporting your results literally quarterly to say, here's what I've accomplished, here's where I'm going, etc. Being very intentional about that, and that can be very hard because you're so busy, right? But because you're not seen in the same way, you have to be seen in different ways. You have to be seen in ways that allow you to, some ways self-promote lightly, right? When you get, a thank you, or boy, you did a fantastic job. There's nothing wrong with forwarding that along to your manager, right? Because they don't see it in the same way as they would maybe in the office. So doing those kind of small things, quick updates, also making sure you do have a weekly one-on-one with your manager is really critical. Again, just to be seen, make sure you're on target. The last thing you want when you're remote is to be invisible. And then the last thing I would say is really continually learning and continually asking for feedback from leadership. And then Robert, I added one when Robert was speaking, and that is to make sure you do have mentorship and multiple mentors for different aspects of your career. All of those are connection points that you have to be intentional about when you're remote, that were happenstance when you're in person. So my recommendation is that you're very intentional around who you want to be mentored by, ask for that help, and then be seen by documenting and keeping managers up to date, et cetera.
Kathy, you seriously, I can't type enough. I have literally shared in the chat box all of these incredible gems that you just shared. Consistent communication. Don't be invisible in a remote work environment. Be intentional and be seen. Communicate consistently. Love it, love it. Thank you so much, Kathy. And we were together a couple of weeks ago, right? That's what I thought.
Yeah,
So-
just last week, part of Tech Week.
Yes. Well, you know, Kathy, I'm not an early bird. So, but I was like, wait a minute, I know this incredible person. So great to see you again. And thank you again so much for those gems, those golden nuggets. Now, Mary and Anthony, you've used a lot of collaboration tools in your organizations. What tools do you recommend to us, and why are you recommending those as part of staying connected to our team members? What tools and why do you recommend them in terms of staying connected?
I can start off. First of all, it's important to have tools, but we can't forget to also rely on your traditional face-to-face meetings when you can. Because I think we're all so used to using any tool available, Zoom, Teams, Google's tools. There's tons, and I think we've all become pretty adept at them. We know how to spin up a conference call, and some of the things you mentioned, doing one-on-ones with your team, skip levels with your teams, that type of thing. But one thing we found out when we tried a pilot to return to the office, most people want to continue to remain remote and feel they're comfortable with the tools they have, but they do miss the engagement of being close together. And so it's really important that you find that healthy mix. Take your team to lunch, try to do meetings with a broader audience. I have a global team. I can't just meet with my direct reports. I have to extend that to more of a skip level type meeting. Otherwise, you miss out on that interaction. I don't know that we need more tools. We have ability to share drawings on whiteboards and to see people live. The tools are fine. I think now is the time to step back. It's been almost 2 years that many of us, our lives have been changed. And we have to remember that not everybody works the same way. And we have to try to engage in different fashions with your teams, your customers, employees, etc. And not everybody likes to work the same way. So I just strongly recommend, as a leader, mix it up and listen to your team. What do they like? Do they want to do a social hour on video, or we've all had enough of that? It's like they want to get together face to face. So you make time. You just have to do it in a safe environment. So I just think tools are important, but don't lose the social side of things, because people need that type of engagement.
Again, I can't even express how much knowledge y'all are pouring into us. This is incredible. Thank you so much. And Mary, again, I'm passing along your words of wisdom in the chat box to make sure that we're capturing all of this. Anthony, from your lens, what have been some of the tools that you recommend and why?
Well, in the tech industry, those are kind of obvious. Your phone and your computer, that opens the door to lots of different use cases for them. Basically, things that are, say, capable of being done as a service. Sometimes it simplifies things to narrow down management of tasks, especially in our world. We're developer friendly, developer focused, and developers ourselves. So we have things like GitHub, where we keep track of countless issues you have to deal with. And some of our product managers use things like Trello to manage their day-to-day project management. We use Slack because when you're on the go, you can chat with 10 people at once sometimes, versus only talk to one. Sometimes we use our own invention. We call it SignalWire Work. I kind of described it before. It's a tool that allows you to wander around and meet with people while doing 10 things at once. So sometimes we're doing all those things at the same time, but usually we do have offsites sometimes when we can. Being completely remote, it's a special time when we meet in person. So when we do, some of the teams are close enough to drive and meet halfway when they're really far. Sometimes we all kind of converge in one spot. And even then, I've been around people for so long, talking to them through the internet, that even when I'm in person, we're all on our computers still talking to each other while we're 10 feet away. So it kind of gets, you get used to it, and then you're doing it anyway.
phone, computer. We have to have it. And that's what I love about United Way's mission regarding Tequity. So if you have not already, as part of our Technology United mission, please go to United Way's website, United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County's website, to learn more about Technology United and the mission of Tequity, because we know that not everyone has necessarily access to phones and computers. So please make sure that you find out ways that you can support to make sure that, as Anthony had shared, people have those key tools in order to stay connected. So thank you for that, Anthony. Kathy, going back to your experience of 25 or 26 years working remotely, and I know everyone wants to know, this is like the $1 million question. What are some of the best practices and considerations you can share with us as leaders who are managing a remote team?
So first of all, my personal belief is that when you're managing a remote team, it's actually an opportunity to create a high performance culture. And the reason I say that is because you set out, it is important to set out the metrics and the objectives, et cetera, upfront for everyone. And when you do that, everybody has clarity, right, as to what they're moving towards, et cetera. And it's less relationship build, relationships are going to be critical, but it's also results based. And so because of that, you actually have the opportunity to set out a high performance culture. I would also say, though, just like I said, you had to be seen. I think you, as a leader, you have to be seen by your teams, and you have to provide opportunities for them to be seen as well. And what I mean by that is, having one-on-ones, having regular staff meetings, all of those things are important. But one of the things I used to do is I always looked for something that somebody was exceptional at. Everybody on your team is exceptional at something. It might be something small. And in the team meetings, I would actually have them present that. And we had a rotating cycle of that going to learn from one another. People, especially in a remote environment, want to be celebrated and want, their contributions to be recognized. And you can do it in a really small way by letting them talk about something exceptional that they were able to do. And that opens up the opportunity for also to make them, give them opportunities to meet with upper leaders, understanding their career plans and opening doors for them very intentionally to be seen at that next level, because it is harder, right? It isn't, it has to be intentional when you're remote. It isn't by happenstance anymore. So understanding career plans and objectives are very important. And then intentionally creating opportunities for upward visibility so that their contributions can be seen is really important as well. And then the last thing I'll say is it's really important. It's hard, you have to be intentional about being inclusive as well, especially if you're in a hybrid environment. So I happen to work for a mega company out of the East, right? And I lived here in Milwaukee. I led teams all over the country. There were pods that could be together physically, and then there were people that were always remote. And making sure that those that are remote are included in the conversation. And that, I know this sounds very elementary, but asking, not getting caught up in the conversation in the room, but calling people out on the phone or on the video very specifically, gives them the opportunity to interact. It is hard. It's really hard to be the one that's remote and trying to interject into the conversation. So you have to be very specific and ask questions that way. So those are some of the things that I would say as you lead teams remotely. You just have to be able to celebrate and bring visibility to individuals. I think that actually really also creates just a sense of belonging, but also a real commitment to the organization as well.
Thank you so much. Anthony, Mary, Kathy, I moderate panels all day, every day. And let me tell you, I always know when our panelists are just dropping, as Bria said, knowledge bombs, because the time flies by. We're already at 4:52. And this has just been so insightful, so motivational. So thank you much. I'm going to pass the mic to Audrey because we have a number of questions from our audience members. And for our audience members, please make sure that you're reviewing our chat box. I want to give a shout out to Tasha Langdon because she shared some apps that she's using as part of being engaged and interactive in a remote work environment. And she also has a question. So Audrey, passing the mic to you.
Yeah, so Tasha put in the chat, she says, I'm currently an IT SCRUM master for a global company, but I have years of experience in project management as well. I find myself doing a lot of both due to my experience in infrastructure and software. And I hear different people in the industry say project management will phase out and it will be mostly SCRUM masters. What are your thoughts on this?
It sounds like something I do a lot, so I can. That is false. I would say that there are different disciplines on how you manage projects. Some of them are more, call them old school, and some of them are kind of new wave. Scrum is a thing that's been around for a while. It's a technique. It's basically like if you don't want to figure your way out through the problem, you can learn, you read a book about it and do the exact process. But project management isn't only the mechanics of it, like it's personal relationships. You have to go and bug people and kind of knock on their door and make sure, you know, do them a favor and trade off and like, we really need to get this done by tomorrow. There's a lot more to it than just like a robot telling you that it's time to finish your work. So I would say that project management skills are super important still. I don't see them going anywhere.
That's great.
I think it's a type of career that you can really do well remotely. We've had hundreds of projects in the last couple of years as we were separating from Johnson Controls, and I'll tell you, we couldn't have done it without all the PMs that we had. So I don't see it going away, that role.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony and Mary. The next question that we have is kind of in relation to the last question that we asked Robert. What are some ideas to advance your career in a virtual setting, especially as a young professional kind of starting out virtually for the first time?
Join organizations, the Emerging Leaders Group. I mean, getting to meet other leaders, networking is really important. And when you've got opportunities to do that, don't just sit back, get engaged, ask the questions, ask for opportunities. I think you'd be surprised how many people would be willing to mentor or shadow people, give new talent opportunities to understand what it's like a day in the life in IT. I think there's a lot of opportunities. You just have to ask for it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I would, the networking component of it is absolutely critical, both inside your organization and outside your organization. And, you know, for example, the United Way is a perfect example of that because you learn from one another's it'll bring a different mindset and perspective. And that's actually really beneficial. So I think making sure you're doing it both internally and externally as well.
That's great. And then the last question that we have for you all is, what tactics have you used to elevate yourself and stay present with senior leadership in this virtual world?
So I think I mentioned a couple of them, right? Making sure you're doing, that you have very intentional mentors, I think is a really important one. And I would work with your manager to say, here's the kinds of skill sets I want to understand and help me understand who might be the right career path or who might be in the position to best mentor me based on that. But I often find people make the mistake of having one or two mentors. People mentor you in different ways. And I think making sure you're doing that is also a really good thing, is to have multiple mentors.
I'd say talking to people also. Sometimes you get overwhelmed with everyone wants to talk to you and half of them are trying to sell you stuff. And some of them are, maybe they're investors or they are analysts and you start thinking, I don't have time for that. But like if you allow it some time, it helps you hone your message. So talking to people about stuff, don't try and always worry about what you're going to get out of it, because your own enrichment from having more practice like adds up also.
One thing I'd suggest too is learn your culture and your environment, because I know that there's certain days of the week that people come in the office, right? Might be staff meetings, it might be board meetings, whatever it might be, where you have that opportunity to run into these senior level people. And don't be afraid to ask them questions, introduce yourself, that type of thing. But I know at our company, Wednesdays are a popular day in the office. You know, if you really want to meet some people, you're new to the team, come in on a Wednesday. You know, it's things like that that I think can help.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for answering your questions and being open to sharing your ideas. Denise, I will pass it back to you.
Thank you, Audrey, Mary, Kathy, Anthony. Whew, I'm inspired. I'm ready to go be even greater than I was trying to be before I entered this incredible panel discussion. Thank each of you so very much for sharing your insight, your wisdom, your expertise. I'm sure when I say this on behalf of our entire audience today, this has been a tremendous, valuable experience. So thank you so much again. I am now going to turn it over to Sam to wrap us up. Have a great evening and rest of the week. Go Bucks!
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Zilke, Technology United co-chair and director of process improvement at Freighter Health. A huge thank you to Denise for moderating tonight's event, as well as Robert, Mary, Kathy, and Anthony. And thank you to all of our attendees for making this such a wonderful event. We look forward to seeing you at future Donor Network events and volunteer opportunities. Don't forget, you have until next Friday, November 12th, to enter to win that fantastic Milwaukee Bucks fan package as part of the United Way's Give and Win sweepstakes. If you give a new or increased gift of just $25 to the United Way's Community Fund by 5 p.m. next Friday the 12th, 5 p.m. next Friday, you'll automatically be entered to win a signed Giannis jersey. Not just a Giannis jersey, a signed Giannis jersey. I've got a spot for it right here, so I'm looking forward to that. And 2 tickets to the Milwaukee Bucks home game. And as Robert mentioned, a bonus gift of a behind-the-scenes tour. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Robert, for adding that incentive. Bria is going to drop a link in the chat for how you can register and go ahead and donate that additional $25 or any gift that you'd like to do beyond that. So thank you for adding that, Bria. As Dante mentioned, if you're interested in learning more about Tech United or Emerging Leader Donor Networks, please visit the United Way website or leave your name in the chat. We're a fun group. Please join us. Lastly, before we part, if you want to hear more about managing a hybrid workforce or any workforce and other key technology trends and strategies, join us for the 2022 CIO Forum taking place on Friday, February 18th. Robert will be joining us and is participating in a panel discussion on emerging technology. Registration for this event will be open later this month. We hope to see you there. Thanks again for joining United Way's Emerging Leader and Technology United Fall panel. Have a great evening. Thank you.